Hi everybody, surrounded in flowers. I brought all the ones that are in bloom here, and we have so much I want to say today, so we'll see if we can get it all done and get you caught up with what's going on around here. And I'm always getting lots of questions, and I think I'm going to do that first before we do everything we're going to do today, because it will lead into some things I want you to know. Now, I had a comment from Yoli. She says, Carolyn, have you ever thought of using New Zealand sphagnum moss? It is recommended highly by Amy Orchid Whisperer on YouTube. I use it, I love it for my mini orchids, and I really like it. And I've also converted to orchidea bark for larger fells. And also, she said, that's how I felt, because my apartment in Tampa, Florida has an old air conditioning system. It's run with water, results with high humidity in the apartment. She explained in one of the videos how she waters with it and not to use lime. Anyway, if you want to go through the comments and you see one from Yoli, it's a very good comment, and yes, I do watch Orchid Whisperer, and she's very good, and her orchids are beautiful. And it's very hard to recommend one fertilizer that works for all, and she does recommend having your ppm tester. I have one, I've tested mine. I am on City Water, which is pretty good, and also bark. Now, I'm going to suggest some reading material I suggested many years ago, and I'll put the links in the description, because some of it's very long, and it is choosing your fertilizer based on your water quality. Understanding Orchids with Roy Tokunaga. Now, it's lengthy. I have a book where I put a lot of information on orchids, and they do recommend but you have to test your water. Now, I've tested mine with pH strips, and they work reasonably well for city water, and you can tell where you are. And that if you add more and more fertilizer or different things, that alters how that water tests. And also, whether your orchids are getting too much of the fertilizer or whatever you're using in your water, or not enough, will show up with the tester. So I'm going to give you some reading material. Now, I have a water schedule I've been using for years. I'm not changing it. I did, however, over time, and great consideration, Rick L. Orchids, who was excellent, you can still go in and watch his orchids, finally convinced me to start the CalMag, which is also on my water schedule now. There's other things I use on my water schedule, and all of them I use a 1/4 teaspoon to a gallon. When I use Epsom salts, I use a 1/4 teaspoon to a gallon. And fertilizer, it's all the same. It's easy to remember, and it's a 1/4 of the recommended amount that is added a lot of time. And it's given through I think my water schedule goes like 7 days. Let me just get it for a minute. I'm never organized and I don't. So week 1 of my water schedule, I always add the CalMag first, and I add 1/4 of a teaspoon to a gallon. So if I know how big my container is, like my sinks, I add that first to the warm water, which orchids like warm water. And week 1 is black tea. So that's a natural fertilizer and lots of nitrogen in this. Now each day you could test with your tester how much, what the alkalinity is, the total dissolved solids of the water that's going through, and you'll know how the pH is for your orchid. Now, week 2, watering schedule. I use 1/4 of a teaspoon to a gallon of CalMag first, then I add my fertilizer. So week 2 and 3 is bought fertilizer. Now I don't care what kind you use. You use the one for the season though, because in the growing season we want more nitrogen. And then now I'm using the higher middle number. So week 2 and 3, 2 weeks of this whole water schedule, 2 weeks of the month is the only time I'm using the bought fertilizer. Now, whatever one you choose to use. So then I add the water. So that's week 2 and 3. Week 4 is 1/4 teaspoon of CalMag, and then Epsom salts, the same. I stick to the 1/4 teaspoon, and I have put my CalMag in a dish soap bottle, washed it out good, put it in. It is so easy to just open that little squirter thing and put it into your measuring spoon. It's easy, simple. So week 4 is Epsom salts and CalMag. Week 5 is just water. Week 6 is seaweed extract. All the same measurements. So I have 6 weeks in my water schedule. So each of those things is getting spread out in a very flexible, they've been getting it for years, and you know, you can't expect results overnight. You can't expect to see too much in a couple months. You can, if you're testing with a meter to test it, tell better how this is reacting with your orchids if they're absorbing. So this is what I've used, and I've made it with the measuring spoons. It's quick, it's easy to understand, and but I do want to say, and I will give the link for reading Choosing Your Orchid Fertilizer. Now, if you have trouble getting in from the link, just type in St. Augustine Orchid Society and then the title. So, I think, now, I tested mine. I've tested the water before I put the orchids in. I've put them on a pot, tested the water that comes out. Oops. And so I have a little tester. So this tells you a lot of information, but the pH strips did the same thing for me. It gives you can pick them up at the drugstore, they're cheap, and they do work. They do work pretty good. So that's the first thing we want to get out the way. And the second one is something that, because I get questions, oh, if you use too much of this, maybe it's doing harm, or too much of this. I have another one from St. Augustine Orchid Society that covers most of the ingredients I'm using in my water schedule. When I was doing research, I used this and many other things. But it says St. Augustine Orchid Society Orchid Supplement or Snake Oil. So I think if you haven't read them, you're not used to it. It's very informative material. There's lots of information in there for different types of water, and even recommendations for the fertilizer that, well, I only use two watering weeks out of 6 watering weeks. You can use whatever one you want that is for the water. Like, you can be a well water, softened water you want to stay away from. I mean, it depends on where you live. Most city waters are going to be pretty close to, they have to try and keep it good for us. Now, mini orchids. Yes, the mini orchids, there's so many different sizes of orchids. Like, these are classified as mini orchids here, and let me just get this one. I've had these ones for years. I don't remember how many, but I've had them for years. They're just in bark. They did have lava rock one year in with the bark, but they're just in bark, and they've had many, many flowers over the years. Now, these are quite happy. They're on the exact water schedule as the rest. But summer, of course, I'm watering one extra time. So that's one classification. And then there's all the little minis that I have in the little square pot we just did the video on. And those are true minis. And they take a little more work, and people are suggesting sphagnum moss. Well, I am determined to make it work my way, but I understand they like more. Their roots are tinier. They like to be in the smallest bark possibly, and other additions. So anyway, I want to show you all the little orchids that I had got recently and put in the baskets, how they're doing, because they were all changed. Their medium was changed, and this is their first growing season coming. This is Phalaenopsis Orchid, and I got her November 5th, 2021. She had a beautiful, very vibrant flower, and you can see how she's doing. She's doing good. She has good root growth coming, and she has another little root coming here. I'm happy, happy, happy. She's just in the bark. Her leaves are strong, so that's Phalaenopsis Orchid. Yes, she's doing really well. So, she is over any transplant shock that she might have got. So, that's Phalaenopsis Orchid. Now, the one I want to show you. Now, I got Phalaenopsis as a gift from Roehampton Orchids when I ordered another orchid. And if you remember, she flowered and flowered and flowered, and it kept going on for a long, long time. So I want to show you that, and I want to also show you Phalaenopsis Becker, because she is behaving the same way that Alphinia did. She wasn't in bloom at all when I got her. So, and thanks to, I did listen to the advice, and now I keep the tag and I write on it, November 5th, 2021. We got this one. And April 28th, 2021 was Phalaenopsis. So, Phalaenopsis, I'm hoping for new growth. Here's the big spike she got. Now, we thought it was going to sequential bloom, but this has dried off, so I will be trimming it off. She looks really good in there. She's happy. She's adjusted. So she was the gift orchid, and it had that little rip in the leaf when I got it. There's a little rip there. But everything looks fine. And this one is the same. It is flowering. There's a new little bud thinking of opening on the side. So the leaves are good and firm. So there's a little update on those ones. Now, in June, I got 2 orchids that I put in these baskets from Marianne. And, or these are the smaller baskets I ordered later. Okay, this is my Phalaenopsis. And if you remember, I had started to get pleated leaves. So I put it in these baskets when I ordered them because I liked the other ones that were the cocoa fiber. She's just in bark. And now you can see one beautiful leaf that is not pleated. These I water twice a week. The first one's a soak. The second one is just a quick run through, not a lot of water, just to keep it damp to watering day because they like a little bit more moisture. And this one is Maltisia Charles Martin, and also doing well, adapting and tiny little root system, but with growth on the ends. And I don't know if you can see it, but yes. So they're in bark. They made the adjustment. They're going to be just taking off in our growing season. So I did want to show you those, and there's one more. We'll put here. Now this one is from April also. This is the one where I ordered this, and this is Phalaenopsis and April 28th, and that's the same time I got Alphinia free. And this one too is doing very well. Leaves are nice and firm, stayed healthy, and I do keep them moist by either having in another pot. So if you're having trouble with too much dryness, putting this pot in another pot will help hold the humidity. In fact, if I do that with my bigger pots, it's too humid. So you want good drainage, and you want to be careful that when you are using another pot. Now, if you have a clear pot and you're putting it in another pot and it's tight, your reason for your clear pot is photosynthesis for the roots. But when you put it too tight in a big pot, it's really not getting the light. So make sure that if you do have the clear pot and you're trying to get the photosynthesis, that it's a big enough pot that light can get in there and circulate around also. So I think that's about it for that. But do you remember, maybe I'll just move these out today. There. It's been fun here today because I tend to wander around in bare feet or thongs, even in the winter. So if I go out, I gotta find some socks or slip my bare feet in boots. But Jack, we're planning on building a great big shed out here in the spring and taking down our old one. And so he wants some good boots for his feet. So he ordered these big men boots. You know, they're really leather. They're good for. They got that triangle. They're steel toe or whatever. They're everything, and they're big and heavy. I hate big and heavy boots. So he's dancing around here today, trying to break them in. He says, you know, they have these in women's ones too. I said, I don't think so. I'm going to go for something nice and light, comfortable. So that's some excitement we're having here this morning. Anyway, what I want to do is, I'm going to take this out of the pot, put it here as long as I don't knock it over, and if you remember, this dendrobium, it broke off. Let me get this better. I'm going to close in on that. This is very old, cranky. There we go. Okay. Now, when this broke off, when it had an accident, because I had it in a dish, it fell over, way off the top shelf, down, 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 hit the floor. Terrible accident. And this broke off right here. It was the most beautiful of all the spikes, nice and thick. And I was heartbroken. And you can see this part here is quite wrinkly. So what I want to do is, let's see if I take this off, if there's any sign that maybe these leaves were going to join together. So I had trouble getting it on. I don't know if you remember, Jack had to help me because I couldn't squeeze these clamps, but I should be able to squeeze them to get it off. There we go. Because that is one big, because I had taped it, but I was scared that because it was in bud and it did flower, but they were very small and they have since come off. But I do want to see what's happening in here, if it showed any sign of mending. I have to get the tape off. Okay, we're going to see what's been going on in here. There's a piece of the tape, and there's a leaf that it was all done very quick. You know, if you cut your finger off, and some people, after they manage to save it and put it back on and it grows. So let's see what's happening in here. I want to take all the tape off. I'm going to show you close when I get in there. There we go. The tape is off now. I don't know. It might be. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be careful. I'm going to show you here. You see where that yellow leaf is? And you can see where the break was. I'll show you from the other. You can see it also took some skin off, like it's there by the yellow leaf down low. And I'll turn you around. So it was a complete break. It was completely off when I taped it. So now you can see where the break was. So this is very interesting. Now there's a little scar here. I want to see if it, because it's been under the clamp, and I want it, you know, we don't know, but we're going to put it back and we're going to watch it, because it's not so loose it's falling off. It's not that loose. So Carolyn should invest in a different tripod. They come available at the thrift stores a lot, and this one has its advantages and its disadvantages. But I have a real small one, but sometimes it doesn't work. So here we are with all our orchids just flowering and enjoying them. And I just want to say, after years of experimenting, and our humidity here is lots of times, summer and winter, hovering around low 40s. Now, if we get a lot of rain and such, it can go up to 60s, 70s. Outside, it can go up to 90 on a good rainy day. But inside, no. And it does help, like if it's very dry, I open the windows. Even in the winter, I will crack them and let some humidity in. And then in the summer, of course, last summer was the heat dome destruction. And it was over 100 in our house for months. And dry. These guys survived in the bark with once a week watering, twice a week through the hot spell, because it is summer and I do water them more. And I can pick the bark off of this orchid right here. I can pick that up. Now, watering day was Wednesday. And I don't baby them. This is dry. And I'm not worried about it. They have different varieties of misters. I have my misting bowls. Keep them clean. Very important, because it will, any standing water that's being forced out to mist, if that water's not perfectly clean, and you can tell by the smell or the feel, if it starts to feel slimy, clean it. Because it not only breaks up the goodness in your water, it breaks up that awful stuff and puts it in the air, and you're breathing it in your lungs. If you have a filter in your mister, please clean it, get a new filter. All this, and I've heard stories, that's not good. Keep things nice and clean and fresh. So I have some that I just fill up occasionally. They just hold a little bit of water, and those are good because there's no filter. You keep it clean, you're changing it more often. But my big ones, usually watering day, I dump them, clean them, and empty them maybe every second or third water day. But anyway, I started using bark. I tried everything, and even when it's this dry, I never mist so much that I'm watering the plant. I do mist so that the roots get nice supply of mist, plus they're near the misters. So they're all dry on the top. And all that's in them, some of them have some lava rock, which I just found, and and then the bark, which is very organic, and that's what I like to use. It's Phalaenopsis bark. So they're all the same way, and the traffic cones, the bigger pots, they're all doing really well. And I just want to say it just works for me. And I have found that what happens is when you get a shock of dryness, well, they're used to it. It's not overly bad, but that depends on your conditions too. And the more you read, the more other people's videos you watch is very good. But don't like spend maybe 2 months with one thing, say it doesn't work, go to 2 months with something else, say it doesn't work, because those are big changes for your orchid. They grow slowly and they adjust slowly. Now, you can kill them quicker. You can kill them because if you water them too much, and that's why the most important tip is new orchid, you changed your media, they're getting used to bark. Check your pot. Well, no matter what your medium change is, keep checking the pot. Maybe once, just on your watering day, check the medium. If you have to take it out, take it out. I do check the bottom. If it's still real damp down there, they're getting humidity from that coming up. That does not mean you have to water because the very top is dry. So some people like to put a little moss on the top or worms. I just chose trying everything. I stay with the bark and they've adjusted. And orchid roots that have adjusted to bark and the drier side of life, they're very hardy. They become very hardy And probably almost all my orchids are in bloom because the ones that aren't are summer bloomers. So everybody can do this, and it's simple, but it's also smart to watch other people and be educated, because there's always something. Maybe your orchid's too close to the light. Maybe they're getting direct sun. There's always things you can learn from everybody, and we're all really in the same boat. We're all just trying to help you to grow orchids like we are, and just gets you through a lot of rough days going around looking at the beauty that you are surrounded with. And having it this time of year is nice. So I just wanted to do this quick update, and we'll see what happens on the next video. And thanks for joining me, and lots of things happening on the community channel. So don't forget to check it out. Bye for now.